All right, here we go. Stocks, the numbers, welcome back. And we're doing a quick update here on Luminar Technologies, ticker symbol LAZR, listed here on the NASDAQ. Stock ended up running up today, back above that $1 mark, jumping basically right from the top trend line of the symmetrical triangle that we personally drew out. Boom, we can see the stock jumps up, closes at 102, up about 14 cents, 16% on the day, continuing up a couple of cents after hours on the news of supposedly now getting some contract from a Japanese automaker. And listen, I'm not trying to rain on anyone's parade, but we recently just looked at this company. I mentioned the inconsistency in the earnings, the bleeding. We looked at the fundamentals and we checked the balance sheet. We looked at how much cash they have, how much debt they have, right? And I personally came up with, I believe, what was a negative quote unquote fair value number for this business. So should the stock be up today on this news? Technically, yes. But unfortunately, again, it's one of those situations where we get those magic words, say them with me, no financials disclosed. So again, unfortunately, we don't know how big this deal is, right? But again, I'm not necessarily trying to immediately rain on the parade. Of course, it could turn out well. Maybe this is the kind of contract and deal that they've been waiting for after all these years, right? So now we're going to have the trickle in effect of the revenue, and now losses are going to tighten and revenue is going to start stepping up, and we're going to start beating estimates again. So for all we know, this could be very good news. So the fact that it went up today, understandable. But again, we looked at the potential of a reverse stock split, and I believe it was going to take place before the ball drops. And what we have here is a premature breakout with the potential, in my opinion, to do a little bit of a gap fill right here. I'm looking maybe 121, 122 right there back to the bottoms. If we immediately go back from the original gap down, you're looking at about 127. 120, what was the low here? 127. So technically, you could still have about a 20-25% move. We could run up here, but in my opinion, you see, in my opinion, premature breakouts sometimes could be short-lived, depending on the company. And I know that may seem like, I just randomly pulled that out of my ass, but let's switch over to Quantumscape real quick. And again, you can see this is another situation where we looked at the company, and again, in the numbers, kind of rough right now. Consistent bleeding, consistent missing. We're still sitting at a pretty high market cap, in my opinion. And I know, you're going to say, well, there's things on the horizon, you don't get it. Yeah, I understand. But my point is, we get oversold, we reach a bottom, maybe some news comes out, boom, we have big volume, short squeeze it, we explode the stock back up, then it slowly sells off back to where it was and potentially lower. Right? We have these little bumps and then we immediately give it back. We have the explosion prematurely going into earnings and then we give it back. We're riding along the top trend line of this potential long-term descending triangle, which in my opinion is setting up perfectly. And then we have earnings come out, nothing happened, the stock explodes, and then we slowly pull back to where we were. You understand? So that's why you may be asking yourself, how come something like a QS or LAZR, like, why are you saying they can't hold these breakups? But if we look at something like SoFi, Honest, there was another one too. But anyway, you understand, those examples are different because those stocks actually have the business and the numbers to back it up. Right? If we actually go back and look at the earnings, we'll see they beat more times than not. Revenue's steadily increasing, right? It's up year over year. Subscribers are up, whatever the heck we're looking at, depending on whatever company we're looking at. So when you see a breakout, whether it's premature or not, it's able to hold or continue to rally off of it because they have the actual business to back it up. And that's why something like QS, you have this big breakup and then it kind of immediately gives it back over a couple of weeks. And then we kind of slow down, consolidate, boom, we get the next big announcement, we pop to 7, and then we slowly just kind of pull back and give it back, right? So as you see, something like this, I didn't want to go off on a tangent, but again, this was just an example. In my opinion, it's probably going to pull back, as I said here, to this apex and then break. It technically should to new lows. But again, something like LAZR, that's why I'm saying we have this symmetrical triangle, right? And now we have the premature breakout. So can it keep going up and you know, fill the gaps and gain some momentum and hype over the next week or so? Yeah, of course. We've seen it happen. We just showed an example. But then if it immediately sells off and pulls back down into this triangle, and then we approach the apex and end up breaking down as we initially predicted, then in my opinion, that would make 100% logical sense, right? So that's why, again, I'm not saying it shouldn't be up right now off of this news. However, it may be short-lived because in the moment they don't really have the business to back up the explosion prematurely, right? So that's why it may be very short-lived. And again, I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but just because you got this news today does not mean that they won't pull the stock back. It won't sell off back down to sub $1. The reverse stock split is not off the table. That's what I mean. So you may have to give it a little bit of time for the market to really digest this and see, are we going to go up and then just start raging for no reason, in my opinion? Or are we going to run up to previous supports, fill a gap, and then sell off, people short it after the pop, and we pull back to where we were? Right? So, of course, either scenario can happen, obviously. But in my opinion, I think it goes up and then it comes back down. And the reason I say that is because we had big volume coming in miraculously just in the last few months, and now all of a sudden we get news of a deal here with an automaker. So, you know, if you put two and two together, you can kind of come to the conclusion on your own that someone knew something, right? We kind of mentioned this in our last update video, that we had a lot of volume coming in. And even though it seems like it's kind of a crappy situation, it kind of seemed like people were getting it trending and talking about it as if we knew something was going to be coming up soon. So, very interesting situation here. But again, I like to look at the numbers, right? Because as I said, off of the situation, we could have a run up and pull right back. So it could be very short-lived. And if we look at the numbers here, we can see, unfortunately, yet again, this company reports a wider than expected loss and misses on revenue. And you don't even really see many articles right now. If you pull up, again, I'm on TradingView. I know every site and every platform is different, right? But if we pull up the news, look at this. Luminar shares climb on contract win with Japanese automaker. Again, fine. No financials disclosed. Luminar, stock is rising after hours. What's driving the action? Luminar rises after announcing new business, ramps production with Volvo, right? And then they slip in here. Oh yeah, here's the revenue, by the way. Luminar announces advanced development contract, right? So we're only focusing on the contract, and we're not focusing on the actual business. That's what I mean. That's why if you want to turn around in the comments and say, oh, give it 6-12 months, watch the revenue start coming in from this auto contract. Okay, fine. That makes sense. That makes sense. The current business has technically not changed. And just like we said with Origin, that was the other one. That was the other example I was talking about before. Origin. Perfect example. As we were coming down, what happened? Their expenses for the new facility were higher than they previously thought, right? The revenue was inconsistent. We had kind of a mixed picture. And we looked at the numbers, and honestly, bringing the stock down to sub 50 cents may have been a little bit of an overreaction. But then what happened? The company started to bring in the revenue, and we started to get this more bullish, this more beefed up outlook, right? And this is why you have to consistently keep an eye on these stocks, and you may have to reevaluate the situation. You may have to reanalyze the situation, and you will now potentially jump the fence if you see that the business is performing differently than the first time you looked at it. So something like Origin is a pretty decent example for something like that. And my main point, again, going back to LAZR, is that could the revenue start chunking in over the next, 6-12 months? Yes, fine. Myself personally, I would not, again, if you want to trade it and try to run it up to 130 here, be in and out, make a quick 25-30%, that's different, right? That's different. We know that. If we're talking about an actual investment, in my opinion, if you gave me 100 grand right now, I would not buy one single share of LAZR. And again, I'm not trying to piss on them, But I will say, in my opinion, people talk a big game. Oh, it's $1 billion industry we're in, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's a great story, but you're not getting any of it, and you barely have any market share. So I'll tell you what, keep signing your contracts, as we heard today. Let's see the revenue actually come in. And then when you flip the script and the losses are in check and they're no longer wider than Wall Street expects, or you're able to actually meet or beat revenue estimates, then we can come back, reevaluate the situation. So that's the kind of person I am. I want to wait and see the proof in the pudding, just like we saw with Origin. So again, that's why I say right now, in my opinion, I am not sold. I am not sold. And also the fact that no one's talking about these earnings and everyone's just talking about this contract should kind of, in my opinion, show you the writing on the wall. Again, the company basically said they were going to go through with a potential 1-for-5 to 1-to-20 reverse stock split. Again, the ratio is at the discretion of the board. And they said that this was more than likely going to take place before year end. So that's why, again, is this good news? Yes. Could it help pull them out of the depths? In my opinion, no. Shares of Luminar Monday climbed after the company said it secured a contract with a major Japanese automaker. Down 70% for the year. The maker of sensors and software used for safety, autonomous driving features, said the contract with the unnamed Japanese automaker supports its AI software capabilities. And also marks Luminar's next phase, collaboration build, Japanese auto next generation advanced system using Luminar's light detection and ranging data collection. Luminar Technologies didn't disclose financial details of the contract. That's what I mean. That's why, and again, that's why I'm not trying to rain on your parade, but until we know, we don't know. You understand? So, off of the news, as I said, is it good news? Yeah. Should the stock have popped a little bit? Yeah. Do we, run this back up to $2? No questions asked? In my opinion, no way. You really can't. Because as we say, this contract, was it for $1 million? Was it for $100 million? What's the length of the contract? I mean, is this kind of like a trial basis over the next 12 months? Was it a 5-year contract? Right? We were not getting any of this information. So that's why, to react positively or honestly even negatively, we can't. Because we're in the dark here. Traveling through a pitch black tunnel, with a flashlight that keeps going on and off. So, technically, right now, in my opinion, I can't personally change my view of LAZR because I don't have enough information. And that's another difference if you look at even a stock like Palantir that we might say is, it's seriously overvalued in the numbers now. In my eyes, it was overinflated at 40. But as we see, markets just continue to climb, continue to jump up, and all these names that were kind of trending that already performed well for people, it seems like, in my opinion, people are just taking their profits and just rolling it back into what's been working. That's why I feel that something like Palantir just continues to go up, and now you can see again it's like above 60, right? So the stock's really just consistently climbing. But what's the difference, right? First of all, Palantir is actually doing business and they're showing growth, right? That's first off. Whether we think it's overvalued in the numbers or not, at the end of the day, they do have an established business. They're technically coming in more times than not above what Wall Street expects. They're showing growth. Everyone's bullish on it, right? Completely different situation. And of course, every time I record, there's massive sirens and an issue happening on this street. But anyway, I hope it's not drowning me out too much. But more importantly, right, something like Palantir, as we said, has the proof in the pudding. And what was the, it's escaping me. And who just got the Air Force contract? God damn, see, now I gotta look up. Bear with me. Was it Palantir? I don't even remember. Oh man, those freaking sirens, honestly, just flip me upside down. I can't take it. I can't take it. I need like a soundproof cellar to be in. Just cannot lose focus. But I don't know, whatever. I don't know. Maybe it was Palantir. I don't know. I can't remember. My apologies. I'm sorry. That really took my focus away for a minute. But anyway, you understand my point, right? We got the news of that Air Force contract. We heard that it was over a couple of years. We heard it was whatever, 55, 60 million or whatever. Was it the biggest contract in the world? No. Did we actually get financials disclosed to where we can now map out, okay, if they got this contract from the Air Force, then they might be able to get a contract from this branch of the military or this company or this sector. And if this one's for 50 million, the next one might be for 80 million. We might soon see 100 million plus contracts over the next year or two. You understand what I'm saying? You can kind of start to piece together the direction that the business is going to take. And unfortunately, going back to the main point, not getting financial details disclosed of the contract, well, then guess what? In all fairness, I can't put a value on the contract. So what that means is, even with this quote-unquote good news, the business is still exactly the same in my eyes. So that's why. Popping up, possible. Dropping right back down, definitely, in my eyes, should happen. But that's all we see. Oh, look, after hours. Look at what happened here, right? No one's talking about earnings. Luminar said it continues to meet all key deliverables for the Volvo X90 production ramp. Okay, very good. The lidar company said it shipped more product in the third quarter than it did in the past 3 quarters combined. Well, then you should have triple the amount of revenue moving forward, right? That's how my brain works. I'll believe it when I see it. Luminar also announced that it was selected as a standard equipment feature on an additional model in the Volvo car. Yeah, okay. The company said the selection endorses Luminar's leadership. Yeah, LiDAR company also announced a new advanced decampment contract with a major Japanese automaker. This contract marks the next phase in the company's collaboration on the OEM's next generation ADAS system using Luminar's LiDAR, as well as paid development of new software capabilities. Luminar was scheduled, but the company said it plans to file a notification, late filing, due to, quote, the complexity of the analysis relating to the previously announced convertible notes exchange transaction consummated in August of 2024. Just remember, SMCI delayed its filing, stocks down 80%. LAZR signs a contract that we have no details about and is now filing, a late notice with the SEC, stocks up 16%. I'm just saying. Luminar said it would be automatically granted 5-day extension. Yeah, okay, sure. Luminar did note third quarter operating cash flow and free cash flow increased by about 20 million in the quarter. Okay, that's a good sign. I mean, I think they're still losing, like 100 plus million a quarter, though. So, unfortunately, as good as that is, that's kind of a drop in the bucket, but technically a good sign. The company said it now expects to see continued improvement in free cash flow in the fourth quarter. Okay, excellent. So, that's why. Now, after bottoming out, if we kind of see like a FUBO situation where now we're getting losses in check, we're not reporting wider than expected losses, we signed a couple of contracts, right? We got some deals on the back burner. Now we're expecting revenue to start coming in above expectations, right? Now we can potentially see the bottoming out and the beginning of the U-turn recovery. But the difference here is, again, in my opinion, I'd see it when I believed it. I would wait for the proof in the pudding. And if the stock ran up to 130, what's today? Monday, right? So if we turn around Wednesday, Thursday, and the stock's at 130, and you're like, oh, I knew it. In my opinion, I wouldn't even think that way. I would be looking for next Thursday to see, does it go to 180 or does it go back down to 80? That's what I'd personally be looking at. Quote, today nearly every major automaker has LiDAR planned into their roadmaps, and our commercial growth in this quarter is a testament to both our technical leadership and ability to execute to global automaker standards. This quarter, we've further restructured Luminar to withstand near-term headwinds facing the industry, so we are better positioned to capitalize on the long-term value in this trillion-dollar industry. See what I mean? I love the way they say, oh, it's a trillion-dollar industry. Yeah, it is. It is. The problem is you're only making 15 million a quarter. So what the heck does that have to do with anything? In my opinion, I hate when people say that. And it's funny because I think a couple of billionaires, like Mark Cuban, I know from Shark Tank, I believe he says he hates when people mention that when they come in with a product. Right? If you develop whatever, like, a new keyboard for computers, right? And you come in and they say, oh, okay, how are your sales? How's your profits? What's it cost? And it's like, yeah, those numbers are kind of dismal, but think about how many keyboards are out there. I mean, we're talking about an $800 billion industry. So if we just get 1% of that industry, you understand what I'm saying? That is the wrong mentality to have. And I agree with that mentality. And of course, again, you have established people in the capitalist space who agree with that as well. So that's why to say something like this, well, it's $1 trillion industry, so we have some long-term value. That remains to be seen, unfortunately, because every company could say that, right? Even Tesla right now could say, oh, there's 800 million automobiles in total in the world. So if we just get 30% of that, or we could potentially get 80% of that, it's like, what are we really talking about here? So again, does it sound good? Yeah, of course it sounds good, on a conference call or, from a statement from a CEO. Yeah, that sounds great. Problem is, out of that $1 trillion industry, you're missing estimates and you're bringing in like 15 mil a quarter. So until you really tap into that $1 trillion industry, you can't put yourself in that company with it. You understand what I'm saying? Management holding a conference call, should be over. I don't know. I'm not seeing any news and no one's talking about it. Like I said, we are simply just talking about what we want to talk about. LAZR says company has been selected to be featured as standard equipment on an additional model in the Volvo cars lineup. Announces new contract. Company says it generates first Luminar Halo point cloud. This quarter we've restructured. Yep, we read that already. Third quarter revenue, 15.4 million. Should have been almost 18. Missed the mark by 12.5% while burning more cash than Wall Street expected for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th time in a row. So this is why, again, I know I may have a little tension in my voice. I may be aggravated, but again, I'm aggravated because, as I said, I'm kind of a very black and white individual. That's the way my mind works. And now we've shifted so many companies and the overall market as a whole, in my opinion, into this massively wide gray area. And it's really starting to grind my gears. So something like this, in my opinion, again, I already explained. You want to run it up, gap fill, get a little hype, fine. It should immediately come back down here to 80 cents, sub 80 cents, in my opinion. The business has not changed. The business itself is dismal at the moment. So, again, some random contract that could be for the next 12 months for $2 million. I'm sorry, again, in my opinion, I'm not impressed. RSI on the daily ran up to almost 63. As this news came out. Again, no one looking at earnings, people just obsessed with this article that came out. Could see a gap fill, but then again, in this market, who knows? Everything's just going up and up higher just because. So, I don't know, maybe we could see a retracement to 150 back at the 200-day moving average here. I have no idea. MACD has been steadily climbing. We looked at this. Now we have the premature breakout. And on the weekly time frame as well, the RSI still has more room to go. And you can see, though, as of late, going back like the last year and a half, the last time we got, looks like, to the high 40s in the RSI, that's when the stock pulled back. So that's why I'm saying you may have like another day or two maybe getting back to 120, 130, and then it may start to pull back and sell off. So we'll have to keep an eye on that as well. If we came out of the depths here, went up to the mid-range, pulled back, flattened out, climbed up, do we get back to mid and reject, or do we break through? So, again, everything's on the up and up, and people just want to see what they want to see. And, a lot of the young traders now, they're trying to, like, force short squeezes. So, can it go to 170 back at the moving average? Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. Again, I don't know what to tell you. Should it? Should it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Will it? I have no idea. Because, again, this and the whole market is in a gray area. It's not very black and white. So, again, if the stock ends up keep running, ends up continuing to run, I don't know. In my eyes, you can't blame me too much because it's just not real. Let's check the pivot points. I'll let you go. Pivot points off the screen, 26 cents and negative 284. And the next pivot point up here, 5.4. There, if I see this stock at $5, I might have to take a week off. Next resistance level, 109. All right, we looked at, again, that was kind of like the high from the gap down. So I can kind of understand that. And also, I think the mid Bollinger Band we just saw on the weekly maybe was about 108. So that's why I'm saying 109, maybe the gap fill back to like the low 120s before selling off. In my opinion, I can understand it. Previous resistances look like they were like 118. And then we have this one here, kind of right around the body of this candle. Look, we had, you know, another 2 right there off of those bottoms, which is why I'm saying the high off of this news technically shouldn't be more than 130. That's really helping the company out too. So it really shouldn't go there, but I can see how it can go there, and then it really should reject and come back down. So we'll see how it looks over the next week or two, and, you know, we can come back to it. But I know we just looked at it, but I did say, again, shout out to Big Lou, 70 Mustang, brought it to our attention. And we saw the volume coming in. We saw the triangle. We had earnings coming up, so that's why we did an update. And, you know, I did say that I jump on and do a quick update after we actually saw earnings. So you guys know I'm a man of my word, so I jumped on, did the update. And not much going on, really. And I know, so you shareholders might be pumped. But I don't know. In my opinion, I do think it's short-lived. But let us know down in the comments section how you feel about this news, and also how you feel about the actual earnings, which in my opinion is something that's not being paid attention to much anymore on a lot of stocks too. It's not just Luminar. But you know, also if you say, oh no, the company's going to be huge, it's going to run to $5. I mean, again, if you don't want to disclose specifics, I understand that, but you should at least let people know, like, hey, listen, I have a position in this. In my opinion, I think it's going to $5, right? Like, you know, at least let's call it like we see it. But technically, that's pretty much it. And like I said, we could do another update. We'll give it a week or two. We'll see how it performs, and we can come back to it. But that's pretty much it. I'll end it there. Once again, stocks by the numbers. I want to thank you for stopping by. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please drop it down in the comments section. I'm usually pretty quick to reply. Thumbs up algorithm helps me get more eyes on the channel. And of course, subscribe to the channel. That is our handshake agreement. That is how you help me help you. But of course, more importantly, moving forward, like I always say, I understand that markets are rocky, they're volatile, and they are very uncertain. So I want to wish all of you success. I hope everyone makes a couple of dollars. Thank you for your time. Have a good day.